So, what if some of the most powerful leadership advice for the 21st century wasn't in a business book, but was actually written down thousands of years ago? Okay, let's dive into this because today we're going to unlock three incredible leadership metaphors from the book of Proverbs that are not only surprisingly relevant, but maybe a little dangerous. We're going to start with a puzzle, one that really challenges everything you might think about dealing with opposition. Is being kind to an enemy just letting them walk all over you, a sign of weakness? Or could it be something else entirely? And this is the ancient text at the heart of our question. Now, the first part sounds simple enough, right? Be generous. But that second part, heap coals of fire on their heads, what on earth does that mean? That sounds way more like an attack than an act of kindness. And that strange phrase is exactly where a huge problem begins. According to theologian Dr. Knut Heim, and his work is the basis for this whole explainer, this text and others like it have been dangerously misunderstood for a very, very long time. You see, for generations, especially in ministry and other organizational settings, this idea of kindness has been used to tell people who are being mistreated to just put up with it. It's been twisted into a command for passivity, which has ended up perpetuating these awful cycles of abuse by silencing the very people who need to speak up the most. So here is the crucial shift in thinking. Dr. Heim argues we've been aiming this advice at the completely wrong person. See, these texts aren't for the victim telling them to just endure it. No, they're for the leader, or maybe even the perpetrator, as a direct command to actively resolve the conflict. The whole goal shifts from just appeasing someone to seeking real justice. It's not a call for passivity, it's a strategy for confrontation. And this brings us to our first major leadership metaphor, one that completely reframes this whole idea. This is where we discover a totally different understanding of kindness. It is not a white flag of surrender. It's a strategic weapon. Now, the common interpretation of heaping coals of fire is that your overwhelming kindness will make your enemy feel ashamed, and then, they'll back down. And sure, that's maybe part of it, but it's a very incomplete, very passive picture of what's really going on. The deeper interpretation here is just fascinating. It's a concept called aggressive kindness. Just think about that phrase for a second. It's a strategy to actually dominate the situation. Not by giving in, but by outmaneuvering your opponent with superior generosity, sharper wisdom, and a better argument. You don't lose the fight, you win it on a completely different level. So how does this actually work? Well, it is absolutely not about being a doormat. It means you generously and wisely address your opponent's real concerns, but your goal is to win them over, to show them the superiority of your position so they actually become an ally. As Dr. Heim puts it so directly, this is not a proverb for weaklings. This is for strong, courageous leaders. And that kind of strength brings us right to our second metaphor. Because to be that kind of leader, you first need a really powerful internal defense system. You need self-control, which acts like a shield not just for you, but for everyone that you lead. And the proverb that explains this starts, funnily enough, with a warning about honey. It is not good to eat much honey or to seek honor on top of honor. The first part is easy, right? Too much of a good thing, even something as great as honey, can make you sick. And then the proverb brilliantly connects that simple physical reality to a leader's psychological reality. Think about it. A leader needs honor. They need respect to be effective. It's essential fuel. But just like with the honey, if you start craving it endlessly, if you're always seeking honor on top of honor, that very thing you need becomes a poison. And this leads to a pretty predictable downfall. A leader obsessed with approval becomes ineffective. Suddenly, the tail is wagging the dog. Or they go to the other extreme, becoming autocratic and power-hungry just to mask their own insecurity. Either way, they end up surrounding themselves with people who only tell them what they want to hear, and they completely lose touch with reality. And this is the devastating consequence. The proverb says a person who lacks self-control is like a city with its walls breached. They are completely and utterly defenseless. But here's the crucial point. The walls of a city don't just protect the leader, right? They protect everyone inside. So a leader's personal lack of self-control isn't just a personal failing. It is an act of communal endangerment. It tears down the defenses and leaves everyone they're responsible for totally exposed to attack. This leads us directly into our third and final metaphor, which is all about a leader's fundamental purpose, their ultimate responsibility. Are they a source of life for their community, or are they a source of pollution? The proverb uses this incredibly powerful image. Like a muddied spring or a polluted fountain are the righteous who give way before the wicked. Just picture that for a second. A spring is supposed to be a source of clean, fresh, life-giving water. And this paints such a stark contrast. On one hand, a leader who's doing their job right is like a clear spring. They're life-sustaining, they protect the vulnerable, they're a source of justice. But when that same leader gives way before the wicked, when they buckle under pressure or compromise their integrity or just fail to stand up for what's right, they become a muddied spring. They're no longer just ineffective, they become actively harmful, a source of pollution for the very community they're supposed to be nourishing. And this just brilliantly illustrates the weight of leadership. It's not just about your own personal righteousness. A leader's failure to stand firm doesn't just compromise them, it poisons the well for everybody else. They stop being the solution and actually become part of the problem. So let's tie these three powerful metaphors together. We have kindness as a weapon, self-control as a shield, and integrity as a lifeline. Look, this isn't wisdom for the timid. This is wisdom for the courageous. I want to leave you with this really provocative quote from Dr. Heim, which I think just perfectly captures the spirit of these proverbs. He says, "I'm actually quite proud of my enemies. I've got enemies that are worth fighting with, and I want to beat them." This isn't about passive endurance. It's about actively, courageously, and wisely engaging in the struggles that really matter. So what's the bottom line here? What should you take away from this? First, that these ancient texts hold incredibly potent metaphors for leadership today. Second, that real kindness is a tool of strength, not weakness. That your self-control isn't just personal, it's a communal defense. And that a leader's integrity is the very lifeblood of their organization. Ultimately, this is a call to be an active, courageous leader, not a passive one. And that leaves us with one final, challenging question to reflect on. When you look at your own influence, whether it's in your family, your workplace, or your community, you have to ask yourself, are you building a protective wall, or are you polluting the spring?